What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Shogi from Shook Earth Media, and today I thought we'd have a fun little discussion about remakes of video games and why I prefer them to remakes of films. And also we're going to talk about the difference between remakes and remasters. And lastly, we're going to discuss why sometimes remakes and remasters make things worse, but also why they make things better, and how there can be a mixed bag. And this is all coming from, I'm recently replaying Black Mesa, which is a remake of Half-Life 1, one of my favorite games, and it's just been on the mind. And Alan Wake Remastered just came out, so it seems like a good time to discuss remakes and remasters as a whole. So let's just jump right into it. Now, I am a person who, when it comes to film and television and stuff like that, I tend to be against remakes. It takes a lot to convince me that it's necessary. I mean, I'm sure that there are exceptions, but in general, I find the remakes to be a lesser version of what came before, and most of the time, it's just a cash grab. You know, it's just because, oh, we have this dormant property lying around, and we want to try to milk more money out of it. You know, so in general, I'm not really a remakes guy. But that being said, when it comes to video games, it's a little bit different. And there are remakes and there are remasters. And some of my favorite games are remakes. I mean, Resident Evil 2 remake is just fantastic. Resident Evil 1 remake as well. Some of my favorite games of all time. Now, what makes that different? And that is mostly the technology. Now, when it comes to filmmaking, of course, there are over time are better cameras, better CGI, stuff like that. But when it comes to storytelling, ultimately it's the same techniques. There are trends that go in and out of favor, but storytelling stays the same. Now, with video games, the gameplay aspect, there's so much more to the experience. The fact that the story is being remade is lesser than the fact that the gameplay is being built upon and expanded, and the new technology of the world, experiencing that is so much more significant than experiencing, oh, it's CGI that looks slightly more realistic. Actually, I find that remakes of films use CGI as a crutch more than a benefit, and the techniques that they used prior to CGI like that were actually more, they had more artistic merit. And like Jurassic Park and stuff like that still holds up to this day because of the mixture of techniques that they used, and they didn't rely too much on CGI and instead used prosthetic effects and on-set special effects in addition to the visual effects. So now when it comes to experiencing a video game world, though, everything you see is filtered through the lens of the technology that is bringing you that world. So the more detail you can bring in the world, the more immersive of an experience it can be. And that also applies to the gameplay. A lot of times, the clunkiness of gameplay in past years, over time, gets smoothed out, and some things that act as a barrier later down the road, they're smoothed out and it becomes a smoother experience, and you can experience the story more readily. So there are two types of video game remakes. There are remakes and there are remasters. Now, remasters tend to build on the source code of what was already there and just have prettier graphics. Now, sometimes these are done well, sometimes they are not. And sometimes there's good and bad. Actually, most of the time there's good and bad. And I think the negative aspect of these remasters is sometimes that they can replace the originals, and they make the originals harder to find as a result of that. An example would be the Halo Master Chief Collection, which overall I'm a big fan of. I have like over 700 hours in it. Especially during lockdown, I really appreciated it, and just being able to play multiplayer on my PC is great. But Halo 1 remake, the campaign with the classic graphics, is a lesser version of the game than the original Xbox version, because a lot of the textures in the game are broken, and a lot of the lighting effects don't work as they're supposed to. Gearbox, when they originally ported it to PC, made a lot of mistakes, and those mistakes were preserved when 343 decided to use that source code from the PC version as the basis for the anniversary edition. So the new graphics, I do like this, how it brings some stylistic continuity with later Halo games, but in general, I tend to prefer the classic graphics. It's a lot moodier, and I like the style a lot more, even though there's less detail in it. However, the preservation of the original game is just not there when it comes to the Master Chief Collection, because a lot of the bump mapping is broken, which is what the illusion of depth in a flat texture in a video game. So all of that's broken. It only works when you have the flashlight on. So there's a lot of mistakes in it, and the fact that it's remastered actually, it takes away from the original game, and you can't buy the original game in any real way. So that's one way a remaster can be a hindrance to game preservation, which is why I almost prefer the remake technique, where they make the whole thing over again from the ground up with a new artistic vision, but preserving a lot of this original gameplay and a lot of the original story, but making it new at the same time. The best example I can think of is Resident Evil 2 Remake. It is a complete ground-up remake. It's wholly different from the original Resident Evil 2 in a lot of ways, but it has a lot of the same locations, the same characters, the same storylines roughly, but altered a bit. So it's both old and new at the same time, but it has the modern techniques that make it a whole fresh new experience. Now, I only wish that they sold the original version of Resident Evil 2 on the same stores as the remake. It doesn't really seem like that's the case. I had to play it on my PlayStation 3, the emulator version that they sell on there. So they don't really have the original version available for sale, like on Steam, for example, which I feel is a shame. And I think that they should offer the original as well. But I don't feel the remake is trying to replace the original in any way. But in some ways it does, because the original game isn't available anymore. So I do like remakes and remasters. However, sometimes I feel like the remasters don't do enough. An example would be the Alan Wake remaster. And, I mean, there's prettier graphics, new lighting effects, and stuff like that. But I didn't feel compelled to purchase it again because there was no actual gameplay changes. And I was hoping for a higher difficulty level, because I know the game very well. I've played it many times, and I only play it on Nightmare now because anything else is just too easy for me. And the fact that there wasn't a higher difficulty mode or any new gameplay aspects, I don't really need to buy it again just to see better motion capture on the faces. I mean, I am tempted by the Life is Strange remaster that's coming out next year, because I do feel like that game is all about the performances and all about the storytelling. And one of the biggest criticisms I can give of the original Life is Strange is that the facial animations and the motion capture wasn't there fully, and because it was a lower budget game, so it didn't really have all the resources that bigger budget games do. So I am interested in that. I'm less interested in Alan Wake, even though it would be nice to have better facial animations and stuff, but I don't feel like the game was really held back narratively by the original cutscenes and stuff. So while it's a nice feature to have, it's not enough for me to make me want to buy it again. So that's one remaster I feel like maybe didn't do it enough. But I mean, just bringing it to a new audience, to have a sequel coming out, very excited about that. I mean, the Control universe and stuff, very excited about. So yeah, there's remasters, remakes are a mixed bag, and that's why I wanted to talk about it today. The positives and negatives of remasters and remakes, and what the differences are between the two, and why I like video game remakes and remasters more than TV and movies. So hope you guys found this video interesting. Would love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Let me know what you think. Smash like and subscribe if you like videos like this. I would love to hear from you and hope to see you on the next video. Till next time, it's been your boy Shuggy, and I'll see you on the next one.